Arrested and removed from the UK, thousands of illegal migrants have been deported on planes.
With 1,489 migrants arriving in January.
Anybody coming across is very likely to get asylum.
The law.
So why
is recording in the election flow?
Welcome to Tactical Truths, the go-to series for military news, tactical analysis, and frontline stories that matter. Before we get started, I need your help. 73% of you who watch regularly haven't subscribed yet. If you like what we do, hit that subscribe button, it's free, and helps us make this show better for you every single week. I'm Phil Campion, former UK SAS, and this is Tactical Truths. Some people would say we're trying to get £10 of shit in a £2 bag. There are too many people in this country. Everything is stretched to its absolute max. Do we need a hard reset before we move on? Let's have a butcher's at this today, shall we?
of illegal migrants and foreign criminals have been deported on planes as part of a government crackdown. These are just some of the photographs. The Home Office says almost 16,500 people have been taken away since the election. It's the
16,500 people isn't that many, is it? Compared with how many are probably here who shouldn't be. It's the tip of the iceberg.
The first time that images like this have ever been released, so why are the government so keen to shout about it? Our political editor Andy Bell has the...
Why are the government keen to shout about it? Because for once they think they've done the right thing. They're just not doing enough of the right thing.
Story.
We've not seen pictures like these before. They're images recorded by the Home Office of people with no legal right to be in the UK now being flown to an undisclosed country. So why are we being shown this now by the government? Is it a bit of a gimmick?
It's not wrong for us to demonstrate what we're
I think he's right there. He's sudden over here. It is a bit of a gimmick, isn't it? It's a look at me, look at me. Oh, no. Let's get serious with this stuff. That's what we've got to do, I think. That's what everybody else thinks. It's the elephant in the room, isn't it? It's the emperor's clothes.
to enforce the law, and it's important also that those who are sold false premise by very slick adverts from the people smuggling gangs in their countries of origin, that everything will be easy if they arrive in the UK, get to see the reality.
They've also released pictures of raids on illegal working, for instance this car wash in South London, but also people working in nail bars and as delivery drivers. In January, 609 people were arrested in connection with illegal working, the highest monthly figure ever recorded.
If that's the highest monthly figure ever recorded, 609 people, is not enough, is it? It's not enough. We know it's not enough. It's nowhere near what it should be. It's certainly nowhere near the numbers that should be getting out of here.
Between July and January,
And it certainly isn't a deterrent, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? They all know, people looking in at that. If you're trying to say to me with that woman before that this is being used as a deterrent, that ain't much of a deterrent, is it? That's like saying you've got a one in 175,000 times chance of getting caught or whatever it is. Don't quote me on those figures because they're probably not quite right.
15,400 illegal migrants were deported, the highest for a 6-month period since 2017. But already the rate of people crossing the channel is up on last year, with 1,489 migrants arriving in January in small boats. The release of these pictures today has not impressed some with many years' experience examining this system.
The way you build confidence is by making a system work effectively, quietly getting on to fix the system, clearing the asylum backlog, closing hotels so people in communities across the country can see tangible impact. That's where government should be focusing its energies and urgency, not on stunts like this kind of TV, which frankly feels very Trumpian.
This is the sort of picture that
very social media-esque
they're showing these days.
We showed a former Border Force boss today's pictures. He welcomed the move, but said it's clearly not the whole answer.
You've got countries like Iran, Afghanistan, Syria. Anybody coming across in a small boat from those countries is very likely to get asylum. or even if they don't get asylum, it's virtually impossible to send them back to those countries.
Impossible to send them back when they shouldn't be here. That's a problem with the system straight away. Maybe that needs to be addressed. Maybe we just need to go back to scratch and go, right, stop! And then have a good think, a good pause, and then carry on with a solution, a thought-out solution.
And you can't send
A fair solution, if there is such a thing.
them back to France because the French, we haven't got a returns agreement with the EU.
We don't have a returns agreement with the EU, but they can send them this way all they like. That sounds a bit unfair to me.
So what are you going to do with those?
Small boat crossings have become both the reality and the symbol of a system.
Are we making it too attractive for people to come here? Is that the reason they're coming here? Is it too attractive? Do we need to say, well, actually, it's not that good when you get here. You're not going to get this. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get the other. It's not going to be the great thing you thought it was going to be. So you might be better off staying somewhere else. Have we made it too easy? I'm sure you'll put some comments in here. I'm sure you will.
Pushed to the limits, which the government must now show it is bringing under control.
More than 100 people have boarded a small vessel and are attempting to make the crossing over to the UK. There's a game of cat and mouse on the beach here. And now you can see the packed vessel is about to take off.
I mean, he had the right idea, didn't he? Stick a knife in it. No boat, no crossing. Because as I understand it, if you're in a safe environment, that should be where you settle. And sure enough, France should be safe enough for them. And they've probably gone through 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and maybe even more countries than that to get there. So why are they coming to us? $10,000 each to I mean, that's it's not exactly VIP, is it? But yeah, $10,000 each. All right, look at the figures on there. That's well. Let's do it. Let's do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. 10, 20, 40, 200. About 400 grand's worth on that boat. Nearly £500,000. That's attractive in itself, isn't it? Maybe some proper sentences for people that are doing this sort of stuff, orchestrating it, maybe. Just maybe. I mean, at least in this video, unlike the one we showed the other day, the police actually have tried to stab the dinghy here and do something to stop them from getting in it and getting aboard and getting away. But once they've done that, there's still a problem, aren't they? And it'd be interesting to see how many of those people on that dinghy are actually, in fact, people who genuinely need the sanctuary of a country and aren't just going there to sort of like feather their own nests or do whatever, you know? How many of them genuinely have the paperwork to support where they've come from and how they've been treated and what they're escaping and why? I mean, and you can see the reaction of these people behind you now, how they behave when things haven't gone their way. And that's what we're bringing in.
There they are.
The police, over to my right, can stand and do nothing. They've effectively been outrun by a large group of people who were tear-gassed and chased in small buggies. The migrants have been staying in the dunes over to my right, hiding there sometimes for weeks before deciding to make the crossing. Conditions today were perfect for them, so they've attempted to do it. And you can still see somebody who's very frail with a crutch who decided to not board the vessel. There's several vulnerable people here. There's women. There's
several vulnerable people, but quite a few that aren't vulnerable. Doesn't mention that, does he? Doesn't mention that the majority of that boat are fighting age males. who probably aren't from a war-torn country, who are probably on that vessel just to come over to the UK because they know how they're going to get treated and what they're going to get and how nice their life will be.
People from all over the world, seeing people from Vietnam, many people from Sudan.
It's 4 a.m. and the people smugglers are out on the beaches of northern France.
I mean, perhaps they need to target the people smugglers. Perhaps they go after them.
As we watch, a dinghy draws up and dozens of people climb aboard.
I mean, that dinghy must come from somewhere. I'm not having it that you haven't got a radar capable of seeing what's happening on your coastline. So where was that intercepted? Oh, it wasn't.
It's fast and efficient. The boat leaves and the smugglers wave off their clients, now heading towards the UK, and then they run off. The sea is calm.
And don't forget, I've actually done this, all right? I've actually done this. I've been backwards and forwards. The footage was put out. It's been out on the ether before. You know, I went across, I went back. I dumped at several different locations in the UK. I picked up from several different locations along the border. All right, okay. I wasn't using migrants. I was using my own people. But the fact is, it's extremely simple, and nobody challenged me whatsoever. And that was way back when. Now it's happening in the droves. Ask yourself again: do we need a reset?
And today, business is booming. Approaching the shore, a dinghy with 5 smugglers on board. In essence, it's a taxi boat coming to collect. A police boat makes waves to try to block the dinghy's route, but it gets past, and the smugglers beckon the crowds of hopeful migrants. There's a surge, a rush to get to the boat. Children and babies are carried. Life jackets.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, nobody wants to see children and babies getting on something like that for the journey they've got to make. That's insane. That's ridiculous. You know, and maybe there should be some sort of Red Cross help or someone on the beaches there who can go, right, no, that's not happening. That shouldn't be allowed to happen. As I alluded to this in the last video that we did, it shouldn't be allowed to happen for the health and safety reasons alone, let alone all the other implications that it brings with it.
Thrown on. A woman drifts away. She's struggling to swim. She will eventually be pulled aboard the boat by the smugglers. And watching from the beach, a long line of police who monitor, but under French law, can't intervene.
Oh, they just look like they're making TikToks, didn't they? Under French law, the law which says you will go to England.
It's hard to think of a more brazen example of people smuggling across the channel. Look over there are dozens of people desperately clambering to get onto that boat. It is a chaotic scene, but it's being watched by a police boat out in the sea and by dozens of French police officers on the beach.
A hard reset on our borders. That's what some are calling for. So let's ask the question straight. Should the UK temporarily close its borders? Now, before the mob lights the torches, I'm not talking about becoming Fortress Britain forever. I'm talking about time to breathe, assess, and reset. Look around. Our systems are buckling. Border controls are overwhelmed. Hotels are packed. The NHS is stretched to the breaking limit. Law enforcement is drowning. There's a backlog, and nobody in charge seems to have a clue how to regain control. A temporary border closure isn't xenophobia, it's survival. It's a strategic pause. When your house is on fire, you don't keep the door open. You shut it, put the fire out, and then you rebuild. This isn't about race. It's about reality. Illegal crossings are through the roof. Legal immigration is at an all-time high. And communities across Britain are saying, we're full. But nobody's listening. A hard reset means time to sort out the mess. Not forever, but long enough to put Britain back in the driving seat. Close the borders temporarily. Fix the broken systems. Basically, just get a grip. Because if we don't control who comes in, we'll lose control of everything else. And anyone telling you otherwise, well, they're more scared of headlines than the hard truth. That's a fact. Let me know what you think. And don't forget, hit subscribe.